Let your spirit grow wings and fly with me, and fly with me. All right, hi out there in the YouTube, and welcome back to part 3 of the Zodiac series. So I'm going to be continuing with Gemini. And Gemini, so let's really, think about the sign. What does it represent? So I'll start with the symbol, and it represents the twins. So within just that, you can see that there is a dualistic nature. Now, a lot of times people think it's like a split personality, when really it's actually a lot more complex than that, because Gemini can actually represent many different facets of expression, because that will segue into Gemini also represents the 3rd house, which is house of communications. So you can look to your chart to see what the 3rd house is, to also know more about kind of the Gemini influence. And yeah, it's a very communicative sign. So they like communicating a lot. Like that is like their lifeline to the world. And the symbolism of having the twins also means that there's going to be many different personalities. Now, obviously that will depend if this is your sun, or your moon, or your ascendant, or whatever placement it is in. But it's going to represent that changeable, mutable nature, because it is also, a mutable sign. So mutable means changeable, taking what you already have and transmuting it, meaning they're really, really good at keeping a conversation going, but they aren't really necessarily the greatest at starting one, because it is, like I said, a mutable sign. Cardinal signs that are like any of the cardinal ones, they're better at just creating out of nothing. Whereas mutable signs will kind of take the Play-Doh and help to mold its shape. So yeah, that's one way of looking at Gemini. It is also my moon sign, so I can very heavily relate to Gemini's changeable nature. And it might be difficult, like in the YouTube videos, to really truly kind of get to know me, because you see all of those changeable natures, and they're like kind of written in stone, because it's in a video, so people take that as like it's forever. But I'm changing every day, and I mean, one mood that I'm in, sorry for maybe the first 2 that I did I wasn't that into it, but the moon, it was like dead, or at about 1% illuminated, and it still is fairly low, but this is my moon sign, so I figured I'd try to give it a little more extra oomph. And it's the child of the zodiac, so they have a very playful, inquisitive, highly intellectual mind, because bringing this all into its other trait or component would be that it's an air sign. And air signs are all about communication, and they're not very necessarily touchy-feely, coming up, the next sign is Cancer. The previous one was Taurus, and so Taurus rules over the 2nd house, which is the house of value. So Taurus, or if you look in your own chart at the 2nd house, then it will give you a sense of what you value. Whereas Aries is the house of self. It's the 1st house, 1st sign, right? It's not that complicated. And so basically, if we were to look at it like a cycle, in Aries, they get to know themselves, their own self-expression. In Taurus, it's a little more outward, and it's like, what do they have? What is tangible? And then on the third level, it's about communicating about, well, what do other people have? What do other people know, etc. And like really getting to know the self through communicational means. So, especially if you look at it as like every sign has kind of like a life path or like something that they really need to learn. And so then it also correlates to the houses. Like there is quite a strong parallel. Another thing I will add is that just because Gemini is known as the chatterbox of the zodiac does not always mean that is the case. So if this is, their sun sign, you would expect it to be expressed more outwardly. However, that can be negated if their Mercury placement is detrimented, in which case it could cause them to be a complete mute or to not like communicating. Well, not that they wouldn't like communicating, because it would really still be embedded in their nature, but there could be like difficulties or trials that would kind of like serve as challenges for them to learn. And, like in a nutshell, I think that pretty much encompassed Gemini. It is the child of the zodiac. So of all the symbols, it kind of represents that childlike nature, curiosity, that spark that just makes you want to know, like to learn and to actually want to learn about new subjects, as long as they, from an analytical perspective, feel that it's validated or important, has some actual use. Trying to think what else to add here. It can also be a bit of the brat of the zodiac, so we should throw in some brutal honesty at the end here, is that even though they can be quite delightful, quite charming, they can also be quite the opposite. They can be quite contrary. They could be very negative and a brat, and they have that changeable nature where they could just be here one minute, there the next, and then God knows where the following, right? Like they're just all over the place. And that people might find that frustrating if that is a person's sun sign, because that's how they express things to the world. But a lot of times people need, I think, through studying astrology, need to have some compassion or understanding for other people, and to know that like for myself, like as a Gemini moon, that's a very difficult placement for the mind to be in. Of almost all of the placements for not just from what I've read, but this is coming from my own personal experience here, is that it's not fun to not know how you're going to wake up the next day. Like, what mood am I going to be in? Like, for other signs, it might be a lot simpler, where they could just shrug a mood off, but it's not so much like a mood as a whole fucking personality. And to wake up not knowing, or like to go to sleep not knowing how you're going to wake, can be kind of unnerving. And so it really helps to have like something that's grounding, and to keep some centeredness and some focus in all of the chaos that can be Gemini. They can be very entertaining because they have a very nervous, constant, steady flow of energy, because their ruling planet is Mercury. I didn't get into that, but that's why I chose to wear blue. I said that I would wear a color for every one of the signs that I feel is appropriate. And blue, it links to Mercury, god of communication. So, also, you may have noticed I changed up my necklace. I'm wearing this silver, I don't know what you call this, silver V-neck collar necklace. I think it's pretty snazzy. And in the previous videos I had on a different one. So, just to show you Gemini's changeable nature. But, give me a thumbs up. smash the like button below and leave me some feedback. Let me know if you found this relatable to either yourself, or a partner, or someone that you share your life with, and whether you found it relatable in a funny way or in an irritating, like, yeah, that's them. But I will see you in Cancer, the crab.
Do you like my new necklace? I quite fancy it.
Let your spirit grow wings and fly with me, and fly with me.